Hello and welcome back, everyone. Before we move further, I would like to cover a few housekeeping topics. Today's sessions are being recorded and you will be able to view them on our YouTube channel. We welcome you to revisit the content yourself and share it further. We also invite your comments and questions. So please take a look at the Q&A chat box on your screen. If you think of a question for the speakers at any point, you can type it in there and we will hold it for the discussion portion at the end of the session. I welcome you to the summit's exclusive fireside chat, styled as On the Spot with Shiv and titled Scaling Up Farmer Producer Companies Lessons from Cooperatives. As a tribute to Dr. Verghese Kurian's leadership and service, this session is also a part of the ongoing centenary year celebrations for which we have partnered with IRMA. Mr. S. Sivakumar is the Group Head of Agri and IT Business of ITC Limited and a member of its corporate management committee. He also oversees the company's social investments. Sivakumar is also known as the architect of ITC's eTopal, the pioneering farmer empowerment initiative that benefits over 4 million small farmers through customized agri extension and market linkages. Welcome, sir. We also have with us today Dr. R.S. Sodhi, Managing Director, Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation. Dr. Sodhi has 39 years of rich experience in leading and developing cooperative sector within Indian dairy industry, having served dairy farmers in several capacities. He has been responsible for creating the current structure of Amul, enabling the organization to maintain and enhance its leadership status within Indian dairy industry. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you, Parulji. Thank you.
At this point, I think, Mr. Sivakumar, the floor is all yours, sir.
Thank you, Parul, and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 4th edition of On the Spot with Shiv as part of the annual Livelihood Summit. Special welcome to Dr. Sodhi to today's conversation. You know, the rationale for today's theme is pretty straightforward. We are seeing the farmer producer companies or any form of collectives of that nature as the future for part of India's mission in raising farmers' incomes in agriculture and all the allied sectors. And the Amul model of cooperatives is the most successful example of leveraging the cooperative model to raise the farmers' incomes. And not only just raising farmers' incomes, the way Amul model has been executed is that it has improved the competitiveness of Indian milk production and also evolved India into being the largest milk producer in the world. And it's also a special honor to use this theme on the occasion of centenary year of Dr. Kurian. So my special thanks to Vipin Sharma as well as Axis for this agreeing to bring in this topic, and Pulen Sodhi for this conversation. You know, both of us are the alumni of Institute of Rural Management, that one of the institutions Dr. Kurian had founded. Sodhi from the very first batch of IRMA, and I am from the second. So we have known each other for 40 years now. And so as I said, it's indeed a great honor to have you, Sodhi, here for this conversation. I know with your long experience in the cooperative sector of all these 39 years, as Patil just has mentioned, you will have many takeaways that would be useful for the farmer producer companies. But to kick off the conversation, can I request you to share, let's say, your top 5 lessons that you will draw from the experience of cooperatives that we can use to build and strengthen the farmer producer companies, and then we will dwell into each of these lessons that you will draw for us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Siva, for giving this opportunity to me talk on this your platform of Livelihood India, and they say fireside chat. I see a beautiful office, good seat, good picture. I don't see fire.
You will
Anyway,
ignite it for us
okay.
now.
Good, good. Well, you see, I mean, you have asked me the question, which is basically what are the 5 topmost things which are necessary or for the success of any FPO or farmers and organization or cooperative. Let me tell you, before I tell you those 5 things, what is FPO or what is cooperative? It is nothing but it is a commercial enterprise by the small people. So any business principle which is applicable to any business enterprise or any corporate are more or less same are applicable to FPO or the cooperatives. Only thing is emphasis may change from what to what not to give. So if you ask me the reasons for success of Amul, I mean, I can tell you, I mean, those are applicable to any FPO, whether you are starting or you'll be already started and in the growing stage. I think one very important thing which is very, very essential for any FPO or for corporate special and also to any business, private or corporate. And that is very, very essential. The beginning is one is the leadership. People want to be basically who will be giving DNA to the organization. That past 70 also is the few years back maybe processing technology, today it may be digital technology, and then latest technology, because you are a business enterprise. You can't say I'll sell product which is technologically inferior than the competitors. Third is very, very important. You see, when any business you start, you need money, seed capital, and smaller the business, beginning the business, more difficult to get it. Next is, I think, is very, very important. Most of the FPOs and the cooperatives may like to ignore or may like to avoid or may not like to put a lot of efforts and money, that is the marketing and branding. And last or least, which is very day by day very important becoming, is the professionalism. How to hire, attract, retain, motivate best of the professional and give them more independence so that they can run your organization commercial basis on systems for a longer way. So 5: technology or leadership, capital, marketing, and the professionals. These are the 5 things. Because of these 5 things, Amul is India's biggest food or FMCG brand.
So that's a very sharp list and really pulls out the essence of the success of the Amul model. And I agree with you that whether it is a private enterprise or whether it is an enterprise of smaller producers, in whichever format, these certainly are the essence. I think it's always the question of how these things are harnessed by different organizations to create that success and given their own unique context. So let's now dwell upon each of these. Let me pull out marketing first. A phrase that always stayed with me over these 40 years is that, there is no Anand without Mumbai. That was the very first phrase that we heard when we learned about the Amul model. And the model went on to, as it got replicated in Operation Flood, connected all the consumption markets to to start with the metro cities and other larger towns subsequently, with milk sheds, the clusters of production. So it is connecting the consumption markets with clusters of production as a very important design element when you highlight the marketing, which is one of the issues in agriculture today, that while we got self-sufficiency and agriculture production is expanding, making the production more demand responsive at a micro level has been one of the challenges, because of which we have surpluses of production at some time, or deficit at another point of time, and therefore volatile prices and things of that kind. So therefore, I think this lesson on marketing, no Anand without Mumbai, is very crucial, and I'm glad you pulled it out as one of your top 5 lessons. So can you build on your marketing in the context of the FPCs, and so how does one really become more market-oriented, more demand-responsive in production, and how do you operationalize this thought?
Well, Shiva, firstly, let me tell you what is the importance of marketing and branding in case of FPOs or cooperatives, especially if you are dealing with the agriculture, especially if you are dealing with the rural India, and which is nothing but mainly food. You see, why FPO or why cooperatives? Why Amul was formed? Milk was produced before Amul was there in 1940 in Kera district. Milk was consumed in Bombay. There was a guy, Polson, who was buying milk, chilling it, or maybe taking butter out of it and selling. So marketing was there, but middleman. So in case of produce, you have to innovate any new things. Already market is there, product is there. What is required? Linking with the market without middleman, so that middleman is not exploiting or taking a lot of margin or taking advantage of your vulnerability, especially if you are dealing in a perishable or seasonal product. So that was the thing. So any agriculture FPO, you don't need to think I have to come out with some new technology to innovate a new product. Milk is there or butter is there, ghee is there. आपको बनाना है और market करना है, customer तक अपने brand पे लेके जाना है. And that is the thing which Dr. Verghese Kurian 40s realized. Okay, am I audible? Okay. So, firstly, he started sending milk directly. That other biggest change in marketing which initially came was in 50s, when we got surplus milk and value-added products were started making ghee or butter. And that time, branding importance came, communication importance came, distribution importance came. So that is where in 50s Amul started investing in branding and advertising, in distribution, in reaching to the consumer. And today, especially in agriculture produce, why it is, you mentioned about demand related production and this. You see, in all agriculture produce, consumption is more or less constant, whereas production is seasonal. I mean, in case of crops of fruits or vegetables, once in a year, twice in a year. In milk, it's every day, but in case of winter, we get 20-30%. Same cow buffalo will be 20-30% more. So a very careful planning of production, what to do with the surplus, in what form you have to convert surplus so that you can use that surplus during your demand days without impacting the price being paid to the producer or to the farmer. So that is the thing. So marketing of perishable product, no doubt, is a tricky, but it is very important because vulnerability is more for the farmer for that. So that is why Amul, right from beginning, Dr. Verghese emphasized on branding, marketing, distribution, and that is a lesson I think any FPO should take. Without own marketing, distribution, supply chain, You cannot give fair or stable or remunerative price to the producer because middleman will take the biggest or trader will take.
Right. So absolutely. I think in this, you brought up the issue of perishability, and I'll come to that in a bit. And you also talked about technology and therefore linking those 2 points in a little bit. But before that, it is, say, eliminate the middleman and reach out the consumer directly is typically easier said than done. All FPOs know that they need to reach the market and the capacity needs to be built to be able to get there. So one of the things that I recall is that until the capacity is built, for example, you also mentioned distribution. The use of the distribution system of Voltas by Amul until Amul built its own strength came in extremely handy. And do you think there is some lesson for FPOs also in that how do you really partner and use other mechanisms while you build your own capacity to reach the consumer directly? How critical was this role of outsourcing distribution for some time as part of Amul's brand establishment and wider distribution?
I think, Shiva, it is not only the distribution. Any business you start, you do not have competence or capability of doing everything. So you have to see what is your prime. Today, your prime importance is how to procure milk or how to procure any fruit and vegetable, and there is a consumer. So you need to take services or partner with the competent people, maybe in distribution, maybe in technology or providing facility, maybe in designing or building brand, maybe taking consultant to give you their expertise to set up marketing. So that is what. So I remember coming to the Voltas days when I joined in 1982 Amul, our more than 60-70% turnover was coming from baby food and other products, which Voltas division of PCP,
Right.
Pharma Consumer Product Division. They had that division. They were distributing, and Amul had 4 or 5 branches selling. Also, we had sole selling agent, one in North, and then gradually, once we established our backward linkage, processing linkage, competence, then Dr. Kuren thought, why not now invest in having own distribution channel? And that time, 82, Amul started having 14 branches, and I was one of the lucky guy who was chosen to select the Jaipur branch. And then it was built. So FPO, you can't do anything right from the beginning. So you have to see what competence you have, what you don't have, and who are the best people to provide that competence and capability for your organization.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. I think the aspiration to eventually build all the most critical competencies is necessary so that you are able to get a fair share of consumer price back without the intermediaries taking away the larger part. But I think it's important to partner, outsource, engage in the process of building. I thought that more explicit input is also certainly useful. So getting back to this issue of perishability, and you are one of the other larger lessons of technology, obviously in the area of converting milk, besides, of course, pasteurization, homogenization, all of those kind of aspects, but even converting milk into more shelf-stable products of milk powder and eventually ghee and many other things is one aspect of technology. But there are many aspects of technology, whether it is starting with even the feed conversion efficiency. Otherwise, just to expand milk production, the land that we have in the country is not enough to produce the fodder unless that level of efficiency was improved. And similarly, whether it is the quality testing on ground in the village itself to be able to fix the prices in a fair manner. So I think many of these elements are there and which are crucial. So in that backdrop, can you expand on your point on technology and what are the things which led to Amul's success from a technology vantage point? And again, keeping the similar kind of limitations of the smaller FPOs in mind, what are the ways in which some of this technology can be absorbed to help them also expand their operations?
Well, Shiva, why technology is essential in any business enterprise, especially for FPOs or cooperative, is very important because technology not only provide you some new processing buffalo milk into powder that is required. But you see, technology, what is the basic purpose of technology? Technology gives you transparency, it gives you efficiency, it gives you scale. Okay, and also gives you it creates entry barrier for your competitors. Now, come to any FPOs, especially agricultural areas in which I'm just digressing. Is my voice is okay? No disruption?
Yeah, there is some break in between. Maybe, I don't know, the network is not very good, but I think we can carry on.
Or I can open my room, network may improve. Just a minute. Huh? Sorry.
Yeah.
I am trying Jugaad. I just opened my. He again closed it. I'm sorry because I know with the opening of the room, because outside the network is there, so it may improve. I'm just trying. So what I was telling, in any FPO, technology starts right from the village level when you are in procurement of milk. The first technology, you know, what we adopted to bring transparency, checking of fat and the quantity and the quality in front of farmer. Okay, and so that what price you pay, farmer knows that I provided this quality milk and I'm getting good price. So transparency, because Polestar was procuring without any checking of quality. And then in that, you see, we started with initially the manual system, then electronic system came. Now we have got the automatic milk collection system where just farmer has to pour the milk, automatically fat or protein is checked, quantity is checked. Based on that, whatever price is there in the computer, that much money is credited into farmer's account, and that data goes to the central dairy that this much milk has come. So this is a technology. And then technology in production of milk. Initially, it started with artificial insemination, okay, because to get a good breed of cow or buffalo. Then we came out with a technology called last 2-3 years, which we are emphasizing is sorted sex semen, because to get only female cow. Now we are emphasizing more embryo transfer, so to get more than 100 good pedigree calves from a good mother or father. So technology at the milk production, technology at milk procurement level, then the latest technology in the milk transportation. The old tankers were there. Now we got technology where each tanker is equipped with the QR code system and electronic system, so that whatever any village society milk is giving, it is automatically checked with the tanker, already automatically milk testing, and the sample is withdrawn based on, and QR code is allocated. So nobody knows that this milk is come from which society. So no malpractice can take place. And then they're coming to the processing plant, all sorts of technology, you know. You are in the food industry, you know, from agriculture. Dr. Kurian, who used to say, being a cooperative, it does not mean you will be conservative in technology. Go for the best technology, not in India, world. Go for the best technocrats. So if you walk into any of our today's dairy plant, you will find the word latest technology available with our dairy plant. The reason is simple. Most of the dairy advanced countries, their milk is not, they are not building new dairies. India is the fastest growing. So we are building new dairies. So latest technology you will get, whether in processing or in packaging or even storage. I mean, recently our HM inaugurated one of our most automatic retrieval system, robotized storage system, where more than, we have got 60,000 pallets, automatically robotized placement coming, loading in the truck. So technology is more important for FPO than the private, because here you have to see that if you provide technology, people have faith and trust. Transparency comes. And then it is linked with everybody. So I think Amul today is successful and ahead of others with entry barrier. If you, I mean, the type of long shelf life milk or flavored milk which we are providing, that is a technology barrier for others to come into. We were the first to give in milk in just few years back in flavored milk in PET bottle, but that's the first time technology has come to India.
No, that's absolutely true. I mean, obviously, efficiency to be competitive in the market is the essence of any enterprise, and that's crucial here. But I think the more important point that you made also is on the transparency of transactions, which is true. When many of the agricultural produce is sold conventionally in the mandis and any other form of transaction at the village level itself, most often it's just a visual observation which determines what quality and therefore what is the price. But in the recent years, with the advent of digital technologies, there are many interesting cases where artificial intelligence and machine learning is used to determine the quality of every agriculture produce. I think it is a great lesson that should be drawn in so that FPOs adopt it to enhance the transparency of transactions. Besides, of course, the efficiency and building barriers from a competition perspective and so on. Let's move on to another one, which is you made a point on seed capital. That's how one starts. You need finance. And while, of course, it is important, in the cooperatives or in the farmer-producer companies, the capital needs to be raised in a manner which does not distract from the member centricity. Otherwise, when capital gets raised and there is a shareholder and there's other kinds of investor and lenders and so on in any business, but here you can raise capital, but member centricity should not go away. I think the way the replication was done in Operation Flood to raise money from selling reconstituted milk and using that for infrastructure ensured that there was no centricity of government, partner companies and those kinds of things, but the member centricity. Let me add that nuance and say that no, it's not just seed capital, but also without taking away the member centricity. And the bankability of projects. Well, government has created many funds like Agri Infrastructure Fund. Again, it is the question of capacity of the FPCs to create bankable projects to be able to borrow that money and so on. So there are many dimensions of this capital. So can you tell us the angle from which you brought out this point on capital and the importance and how the lessons can actually be applied to the FPCs from what you're saying?
See, why I'm saying is any business or enterprise you want to start, you need capital, seed capital, maybe for the technology, maybe for the buying of the raw material, and also initially whatever the overheads are there. And Amul also had the same problem. 1949, when Dr. Varghese Kurian advised Tribhudas Patel that you need pasteurizer because milk is getting curdled. And the next question, Tribhudas asked how much money it will cost. I don't have money, what to do? And you just see here, he borrowed the money from his brother-in-law and gave cash to Dr. Kurian to go to Bombay and place order with L&T. So you can imagine the sacrifices the leadership made in the beginning to raise the capital. And second thing is, whatever capital you are raising or collecting, you have to see the control of farmers, you don't lose. The Operation Flood, you see, that was the National Dairy Development Board, Dr. Varghese Kurian, and he got money from European and World Bank, and he gave in such a way that government does not have to control. But you can see, I'll tell you, wherever the state government gave the guarantee, they started controlling it. They started appointing their own people. The MD should be IAS officer or their fellow. And you can see where are they today. Wherever control has gone to others or even government, FPOs have not been able to grow in a way, because then they will not look after the interest. But I agree, same challenge and problem, because they do not have collateral. Number of organizations have come, NABARD is there, NCDC is there, so many, but I mean, naturally, because of their own overheads or that their rates are high. I mean, so new cooperatives are going, but people like us, we find going to the market, borrowing it, we get less than the so-called exclusive institutions. But no doubt we are taking from them also. So seed capital without collateral for a new institution is a big problem. But here you see members and the leadership has to chip in. They have to sacrifice.
So let me come back to leadership, which is one of your important elements. But before that, you know, we discussed, while discussing seed capital, you talked about government and the implications of getting the money from government, as in some cases it was there. And I mentioned about the importance of member centricity while getting funds from wherever. There is a question from one of the participants here, Himanshu Waghela, who is asking what kind of government support is required for FPOs to achieve success like Amul. While at one level it has adverse implications and effort of Amul in it while it's being created, and Operation Flood was to how do you really keep at arm's length so that the member centricity doesn't go away. But yet, in order to support, there may be something which will be required. So capital or otherwise, what do you think would be useful government support?
You see, government is because you are working in a democratic country, without government support, you cannot work. So you require government support. First of all, the policy, favorable policies. So Government of India, when in 70s, mid 70s, Operation Flood was being implemented and India was dependent on imports or dairy imports. So they decided India has to become self-sufficient. So import was discouraged, local production was encouraged on a long-term basis. I mean, today also that same policy holds, which government could not do in edible oil. And you know, you are the expert of edible oil. And where are we today? More than 1 lakh crore. So long-term policy framework favoring the local production, local farmers, local cooperatives or FPO is very, very important. Second is, government is required to see that minimum government intervention takes place in this thing. That is also. And also framing of laws and other thing with the time, whatever benefits are available to the industry are gone. I've seen, you see, FPO, the cooperative, whatever you say, you represent the industry, I represent FPO. I've seen any policies and finance ministries are formed or anything they want to give benefits. Generally, they forget there is a alternative business model of cooperative FPO. It does not come to their जहन में आता ही नहीं है. And then they'll form something and then they'll announce something for the industry. And then you go to them, sir, we are also there. Please include cooperatives or FP also in this. You are giving some income tax benefit. Please, cooperatives also, if you are giving first 10-year income tax benefit to any new company, why not to a cooperative? And you are given concession in the income tax from 30 to 25 or 20, please reduce cooperative income tax also. So that is the where we have to, you need government intervention to at the same plate, bringing it the same.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think I must compliment you on championing this cause, trying to bring cooperatives as a model to the centrality of policy making, which is quite crucial. Let's now move to the point on leadership. You brought in the reference of the conversation between Tribhuvan Patel and Dr. Kurian on this finance and all that. So therefore, obviously, leadership is crucial. And beside these top of mind names at the very apex level, both Tribhuvan Patel and Dr. Kurian's names who are at the helm of Amul as it got formed and developed and all that, you require leadership at multiple levels, starting with leadership at the village level and in the Amul model, certainly at the union level and eventually the federation at a state and so on. So at multiple levels, the leadership is required. So what is done in the Amul system to create that leadership at a distributed level, which we can draw for the benefit of FPCs?
You're right, Shiva. What Amul today is, what is today, it is mainly because of very selfless and dedicated political leadership, Tribhuvan Patel, and after that Moti Bhai, Jaswant Bhai, Gura Bhai, so many. And also very committed professional leadership, Dr. Varghese Kurian, or maybe H.M. Dalai, or maybe after that J.J. Bakshi or so many others. And see, leadership in a new FP or new cooperative are always selfless, dedicated, because they have been exploited, they had a cause, they had a need, and that is where they come together and form this FPO. So that, but once you go to the maturity stage, you need to see that people with the real concern for the members, they are at the leadership position. Then the people with the vested interest or with short-term political gains, they come into that. And for that, you need to keep on educating the members. What do you mean by cooperatives? What do you look? What are your rights? What type of representative you have to elect? Who should be going to the either village level society board or the management committee or the chairman? So that type in Amul, we are running so many leadership, cooperative awareness program, cooperative leadership program, especially among the women. But being encouraged, we have seen among men and women, women are, when they come, they are more selfless and dedicated and committed to the cause. But let me tell you, once you become big, it is day by day, it is becoming difficult to get the same type of selfless, dedicated leadership what we had in the old days, Tribhuvan Patel or Moti Bhai or Jaswant Bhai type of leaders?
Yeah, I think the question of selflessness and dedication is not easy to find on a wide scale, certainly in today's society. So therefore, one has to, while trying to see how one inculcates them. Now, independent of that, how do we really get distributed leadership will still be something that one should look for.
But let me tell you, in a commercial organization like any FPO, leadership is different than the other political type of system, because here you have to deliver. If you don't deliver, tomorrow you will be out. And delivery is on the numbers, this price, milk, this. So you will be gauged. So that is very good.
Yeah, I think accountability ensures leadership is an important principle, especially when you are a smaller democracy like an FPO, then the accountability is much closer to the users, unlike when it is far removed and therefore there is no ability to control and pull back. So I think that is certainly a useful point. While we are on the subject, I don't know if leadership is one reason or anything else. There's a question from Anand Yadwar on why is the cooperative movement not as successful in other states apart from Gujarat and Karnataka? What would be the reasons for that? Any reflection on that?
Now, firstly, let me tell you, cooperative model is successful if you go to Amul may be number 1 in India or Nandini number 2. But if you go to Bihar, Sudha is number 1. You go to Punjab, Verka is number 2. They may not be as successful as like Amul. Today, right now, I'm sitting at Lucknow, just came from Anand. And I remember in 1982 when I joined Amul, and 83, I think I had come to Lucknow and Kanpur market. I was telling my sales force, any market I used to go, Parag used to be the one brand. It was extremely difficult to convince retailer to keep Amul. And where is Parag today? Nowhere visible. Reason is simple. Like I said, so asked a very good question about the government, where government started, instead of governance, business. When the government came, the business has failed. And UP is one example. So are the, I can give you some other states also. So Dr. Varghese Kuri used to say, government is to govern, not to do business. So, and you see, not only in dairy, anywhere you see, whether you talk about Air India, you talk about ITDC, or you talk about all. So they have to govern. Some very, very important tasks you may like to keep with this thing because of the secrecy or other thing. And reason for that, I mean, the chief executive is coming from administrative services, and he may be thinking, I have come on a punishment transfer, so I will be for 6 months or 1 year, 2 years. So naturally, he will be working without any long-term vision or mission. And especially the professional in that organization, they also don't know, I mean, what is leadership? For whom are they working? See, everybody is working in the organization looking for the leaders. And we know when leaders are not going to be stable, I mean, difficult for any professionals to work in such type of organization, give their best. I think main reason is that.
Right. Okay, since you mentioned professionals, that gives a segue to talk about your highlighted was on professionals. Obviously, like leadership, professionals are also required at every level. And in a federated model like Amul, the bandwidth of the professionals required is different at different levels. Let's say at the village level, secretary bandwidth would be quite different from professionals at a union level or at federation level for different capabilities. But with each FPO or FPC as an enterprise in its own right, unlike a federated structure where they are integral part of an overall architecture, what used to be conventional secretary of a society now literally needs to be a CEO of an FPC. And therefore, the nature of bandwidth that is required is very different. Now, in that context, can you share with us how does one build a professional cadre that is very necessary, which became the root cause of success for Amul, and how do we draw lessons for that for FPCs?
Whether you talk about one small FPC, farmer producer company or cooperative with one or two societies only, or in the beginning, and naturally secretary or is the CEO. But today, you see, today Amul dairy secretary just collection of milk and cooling it and making payment and selling cattle feed. But when you started, he is the general manager. So in a small FPO, the secretary or manager is a general manager. He may not be from a very prestigious management school and with the eyes. Actually, you have to see the local. And let me tell you, management is common sense. What is required is how to encourage anybody with literate fellow with knowledge of technology and education, but has to be very, very committed fellow. And the leadership, you see, why Dr. Kurian able to perform? Just think, he's a professional. And there are maybe hundreds of Dr. Kurian that time in India. Why Dr. Kurian is today remembered and discussed? It is because of Trimandas Patel, who could see the potential of Dr. Kurian for a Kerala district, who attracted Dr. Kurian to work here. He motivated and retained Dr. Kurian and also protected Dr. Kurian from the other outside atmosphere. So professionals are there. Anybody, any village you will find a good professional. But what is required is how to attract, retain, motivate, and protect them. And that is the job of leadership. And today, I mean, any reason for the success of Amul vis-a-vis you talk about Parag or anything is again the professionalism. Naturally, Amul, we are able to get the best of professional stability there. I mean, today, I'm the managing engineer for last 11, 12 years. And when I joined, Dr. Varghese Kurian was there 40 years back. Then after 2 years, J.J. Bakshi came. Then he was there for another 10, 12 years. Then after that, Mr. B.M. was there for last. He worked there for 14, 15 years. And I'm there. And if you take any other not so famous cooperative FPO, they may be 100 by now, last 40 years, at least 40 CEOs. So stability of professional in any organization is very, very important.
So I think it's a very important point that you drew out in terms of the complementarity between the leadership and the professional managers at various levels for the proper functioning, which includes protection at appropriate times, besides all the other elements that you talked about. So in addition to the obviously legendary examples of Tribhuvandas Patel and Dr. Kurian, in more recent times, in your stint at GCMMF, whether at the Federation itself or unions, are there any other examples you can talk about where this leadership and professional management complementarity was tested and it really helped any of those incidents and anecdotes which showed that mutuality, or where it didn't work, if any example of that kind also?
You see, nowadays also, like on my board, there are 18 board members, and all of them are farmers. They may be having, definitely having, most of them having some political alliance and different values. They may be having different value system and understanding of the business and other thing, and also tenure of working with the cooperatives. Most of the people have gone up through cooperatives, started at the village level. There are maybe some people who have come now from the political side to the cooperative. That is also a new trend. But what I have seen in my board, the trust and confidence in the professionalism, because they know what they don't know. And they know why they are hired professionals. And they respect your opinion. They give you full independence. I mean, I tell you, in my board, when you must be attending a lot of other board meetings, if I have to put up a new dairy of 400, when we invest every year 800 to 1000 crore, 400 crore rupees new plant, it will not take more than 5 minutes to get the proposal passed with all the details. Because they'll ask only one question: do you think it is good for us as a professional? Yes. So कहते आप छोटी जी आपको मालूम है क्या अच्छा है. But only one question they ask in most of the board meeting is, when are we going to increase the price of milk? And Shiva, let me tell you, I feel very disturbed when I read the business paper in the morning and the first headline is food inflation has gone by 12% in India. The same 12% could have been converted, the farmer's income has gone up by 12%. So that is the dichotomy system. Still, we think our whole thinking is urbanized from urban point. And where farmers always think, दूध का प्राइस कब बढ़ेगा, हमारी इनकम कब बढ़ेगी.
Yeah, so I think absolutely the point of view on what a price increase for agricultural based products are, whether it is translating into higher income for the farmers or at least cover the cost of their own inputs to keep their income all right, and to what extent it has implication for the consumers. There's a question from Gautam Agarwal from the audience, very much on the same issue on inflation. But this issue of while the farmer income can go up, the point from which you are, obviously that's your objective when you talk about cooperatives. But what are the implications of this when you look at it from an export competitiveness perspective? Many of the products, including of course milk at various points of time, either as milk powder or certainly some of the consumer products you do export on a continuous basis. So how do you really balance this of higher farmer incomes and competitive market prices, whether in domestic and more importantly even the export market?
Shiva, you are expert in international commodity agriculture markets. So you know how prices fluctuate, who decides. Actually, export potentiality or competence is not decided by a farmer in India, but the policies and subsidies of rich agriculture producing countries like USA, Europe. I mean, they decide the competence of Indian farmers in the export market because type of direct or indirect or gray or green boxes subsidies they give. And that decides the international prices, and based on that you have to decide whether you are competent or not. So there is law. So, but let me tell you, day by day, Indian dairy industry is becoming export competitiveness. And only thing is, tomorrow, these countries do not start giving more subsidy directly or indirectly and start inventing new tools like WTO or RCEP or FTA to, I mean, these are, Dr. Korean used to say, the WTO or these, but that time RCEP was not there. But WTO, and now everybody is talking. these are the tools invented by rich countries or developed countries to exploit the markets of developing or the poor countries, which is becoming true. Even our Honorable Prime Minister also said. And recent is climate. I mean, these are the words invented by these people.
Yeah.
So that people who want to give, मैंने एक दिया पहले WTO दिया to stop your development, then I gave you RCEP, now I'm giving climate change. All are good, all are, but they don't want to follow, they want us to follow.
Yeah, I think, again, you've been at the forefront of dealing with many of these issues in the recent times on some of these potential non-tariff barriers as well as tariff issues on many of these kind of things. And obviously, in a multilateral kind of a world, one has to keep reinventing what are the WTO compliant support to create that kind of a level playing field. And so instruments like PLI, a production linked incentive, you're one of the successful applicants in that in the food processing. What kind of instruments of that kind can be used for farmers at the grassroots potentially, so that one can actually take this battle with the world with full strength and not hands tied. So what kind of instruments like PLI you think make sense?
Yeah, I think this is a very good question. The recent production linked incentive scheme PLI is a unique and different. I don't call it PLI. I call it market linked incentive scheme. Because you see, earlier any food processing or any other industry schemes or subsidy used to come, you invest 100 crore, new plant, 20 crore or 50 crore being subsidized by the government, various schemes. So a lot of people used to put up plants without having any market access, without any market linkage, and then they used to run here and there, and it used to be white elephant. This scheme is, you will get money only what you are able to sell more. So for that, you have to invest in your production. So you will produce more only when you are able to market it extra. And you will market it with your branding and efforts in the distribution. And if you want to produce more, you have to invest in new plants and machinery. You have to market more in not only domestic market, but also export market. So this is a unique scheme where incentive is based on what incremental growth in marketing you get.
Yeah, so I think anything which is linked to outcomes and market success is obviously more productive.
It's more realistic. It is more realistic and logical.
Otherwise, we have seen in many other kinds of incentives, even before the factory is up, the promoter is already rich, and then whatever happens subsequently. I think this is a very appropriate mechanism. I think we need to conceive how some of this can work for the farmers also, in the way it gets structured. I mean, obviously, some of the food processing benefits do spill over to the farmers to some degree. One of the other stated objectives in the cooperative system is to try and plow back the largest part of a consumer price back to the producer. And obviously, when there is one kind of a product, like what is the consumer price of milk to what is the producer price of milk. But when you look at value addition as an important outcome in some of these kind of market linked activity and all that, what share of, let's say, cheese goes back to the farmer, the number would be smaller because the base is very different. It's an expanded pie. So how do you equalize some of these kind of things to assess the success of a cooperative, to say that it's 80 of 100 going back and 60 of 150 going back. And how does one really compare and make an assessment of these?